Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into something really cool in Spring Boot. It's new, built-in resilient superpowers. These are features designed to help you build applications that are way more reliable. Now, if you've been around for a while, you'll know you used to need an external dependency like the Spring Retry project, but the big news is these powers are now baked right into the framework itself.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why services fail in the first place. Then, we'll look at 3 awesome solutions: automatic retries using @retryable, getting more advanced control with the retry template, and how to stop your system from getting overloaded. Finally, we'll wrap it all up into your brand new resilience toolkit.
Okay, let's get right into it. To understand the solution, we first have to understand the core problem, something every single developer faces when working in the world of microservices.
I want you to really think about this. Your application is running smoothly, but it depends on another service, maybe an external API, a database. And then poof, it just goes down, even for a second. What happens next?
Well, the reality is usually a mess, right? It's a cascade of failures. We expect our users to have this perfect, smooth experience, but what they actually get are frustrating error messages and features that are just plain broken. This gap, this chasm between expectation and reality is exactly why resilience is so critical. So what is resilience? At its core, it's your application's ability to, take a punch. It's all about handling those temporary glitches, a little network hiccup, a flaky API, and recovering gracefully without the whole house of cards crashing down. This isn't just a nice-to-have anymore, it's an absolute must-have.
And this, right here, is the big news. It used to be that for this kind of power, you had to pull in the Spring Retry project as a separate dependency. But now, these essential resilience features are part of the core framework, which means simpler builds, cleaner code, and just less hassle.
So let's jump into our first solution and see how Spring makes handling these temporary failures incredibly simple. To make this real, let's use a little analogy. Imagine you're building a food delivery app. We'll call it Quick Bites. To work, you have to get a menu from a partner restaurant's API. The only problem is their service is notoriously unreliable. It fails like 40% of the time. What do?
Well, you use @retryable. When your app makes that API call and it fails, the @retryable annotation just automatically jumps in and intercepts it. It then smartly retries the call, often using what's called exponential backoff, which basically just means waiting a little longer between each attempt to give the service time to recover. And it keeps going until finally, success. All of this without you having to write any messy retry logic yourself.
And the real power here is just how simple it is. You just add one annotation right above your method. You can even configure it to set the max number of attempts, and this is really important, you can tell it which specific exceptions should trigger a retry. That way you're not retrying for every single little error, just the ones that are likely temporary. So you add the annotation, you run your code, and it still fails on the first try. This is a super common gotcha that can trip up anyone. So why isn't it working? Because you have to turn on the lights. You need to add the @enable resiliency methods annotation to one of your configuration classes. This single line is what activates all of Spring's awesome declarative resilience features. Don't forget this step. The @retryable annotation is fantastic for simple cases. But what if you need more programmatic control? That's where our next tool comes in, the RetryTemplate. So let's go back to our Quick Bites app. Getting the menu is solid now, but the next step is to find an available delivery driver. Now this is a more complex problem. You might need to check multiple drivers, handle different failure states, maybe even log each attempt. A simple retry just isn't going to cut it here.
And this is the perfect job for the retry template. The key difference is pretty straightforward. @retryable is for your quick, declarative wins. Retry template is for when you need to roll up your sleeves and programmatically build your retry logic, giving you that fine-grained control and, most importantly, observability.
And that observability, that's the real killer feature. With Retry Template, you can attach custom retry listeners. This lets you hook into the retry process to log every single attempt, audit why things are failing, or even send an alert if a service fails too many times in a row. It turns a black box into a glass box, so you can see exactly what's going on. So far, we've been reacting to failures. Now, let's totally shift our thinking and talk about how we can proactively prevent system overload in the first place.
It's the lunch rush at Quick Bites. Orders are just flooding the system.
You need to notify each restaurant, but if you send all of those notifications at the exact same time, you could easily overwhelm a partner's system and crash it.
Just imagine this, 100 concurrent requests, all trying to hit your notification service at the exact same moment. That is a recipe for a total disaster. So how do you handle this flood? Well, Spring gives you an incredibly elegant solution, the @concurrency limit annotation. By adding this one little line to your method, you're telling Spring, hey, never let more than 5 requests execute this method at the same time. It's like a bouncer for your code.
And here's the result. The other 95 requests, they just wait patiently in a queue. So your system processes a manageable number of tasks, the partner API stays stable and happy, and all the orders get through without causing a system-wide meltdown. It's brilliant.
All right, let's wrap this all up by summarizing the powerful new toolkit you now have at your disposal, built directly into Spring Boot.
So here it is. For those simple, transient errors, you'll reach for @retryable. For the complex stuff, where you need deep control and want to see everything that's happening, you'll use the RetryTemplate. And to protect your services from those crazy traffic spikes, you'll use @concurrency limit as your proactive gatekeeper.
And that brings us to the end. With these tools now built right into the framework, building robust, resilient applications has never been more straightforward. So the final question I'll leave you with is this. Looking at your own projects, which part of your application needs these new resilient superpowers the most? Thanks for watching.